Most older men were never taught how normal, healthy, and even helpful masturbation can be, especially as we age. Many were raised in a time when this topic was taboo, whispered about, or linked to guilt. But here's the truth. Your body still has needs. Your mind still craves release. And ignoring that can quietly affect your health and mood more than you think. Masturbation isn't just about pleasure. For older men, it's a tool that helps maintain sexual function, improve sleep, reduce stress, and even support prostate health. It helps you stay in touch with your own body, especially when your energy, hormone levels, or relationships change. Let me be clear, there's no shame in taking care of yourself. Many of my patients in their 60s, 70s, even 80s have told me they wish they had been more open to this earlier in life. Some waited until after their partners passed, or until they faced erectile issues, to give themselves permission. One gentleman, 74, told me he finally felt at peace with the idea after learning it could actually help with his mild prostate inflammation. No one had ever told him that before. So if you're watching this and feeling uncertain or embarrassed, I want you to know you're not alone. You're also not broken or too old. You're human. And this conversation is long overdue. Erections are like muscles. If you don't use them, you risk losing function over time. Many men over 60 start to notice changes. Maybe it takes longer to get hard, or the erection isn't as firm as it used to be. That can be discouraging. But what most don't realize is that masturbation can help preserve erectile health. When you stimulate yourself regularly, you're encouraging blood flow to the penis. And that blood flow keeps the tissues oxygenated and elastic. Without it, those tissues can start to atrophy. It's similar to how joints stiffen if you stop moving them. So in a very real sense, masturbation acts like maintenance for your erection. Some of my older patients with early signs of erectile dysfunction started a gentle self-stimulation routine, no pressure to climax quickly, just regular arousal. Within a few weeks, they noticed improvements. One man, 68, told me he had more frequent morning erections just from staying consistent. His confidence improved, and that in turn helped his performance when he was with his partner. This isn't about chasing your younger self. It's about protecting the function you still have and using what your body is capable of in a healthy, pressure-free way. There's no need to feel like something's wrong with you. In fact, your body is probably just asking for a bit of attention and consistency. Your prostate is a small gland, but it plays a big role, especially as you age. One of the lesser-known benefits of masturbation is that it may help reduce your risk of prostate problems, including benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, and even prostate cancer. How? When you ejaculate, whether through sex or masturbation, the prostate releases fluid. This release helps flush out old secretions and potential irritants. If that fluid builds up over time, it may contribute to inflammation or congestion in the prostate. There was a large study published in the journal JAMA that followed thousands of men over many years. Researchers found that men who ejaculated more often, especially into their 60s, had a lower risk of developing prostate cancer later in life. They weren't necessarily having more sex. Many were simply staying sexually active on their own. Patient, age 72, came to me with discomfort in the pelvic area. After ruling out infection, I gently asked about his sexual habits. He hadn't ejaculated in over 6 months, thinking it was no longer necessary. I explained how regular release can help relieve pressure on the prostate. A few weeks after adding 2 or 3 solo sessions per week, his discomfort improved. You're not doing something dirty, you're helping your body stay balanced. It's a small act that can support one of the most important glands in your body. And best of all, it's free, private, and fully within your control. As we age, we face more time alone. Partners pass away, sex becomes less frequent, and physical touch, something many of us took for granted, can become rare. That lack of connection affects more than just our mood. It impacts our sense of self, our confidence, even our hormones. Masturbation isn't just physical release, it's also emotional comfort. When you take the time to connect with your own body, you're reminding yourself that you still deserve pleasure, still deserve attention, still deserve to feel alive. Touch, even when it's self-given, calms the nervous system. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and can help your body release oxytocin, the same hormone connected to affection and bonding. One widowed patient in his late 60s shared something powerful. After his wife passed, he went nearly 2 years without any kind of intimacy. He thought it was over. Then, after a conversation in my office, he gave himself permission to reconnect with his body, not out of lust, but out of comfort. He told me it felt like finally being able to exhale again. You don't have to be in a relationship to experience intimacy. You don't need a partner to feel emotionally grounded through touch. Your hands can offer warmth and reassurance. Your body is still capable of giving you that small, vital reminder that you're here and you matter. Sleep gets trickier with age. Many older men struggle with falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early. And while we often turn to supplements, warm milk, or sleep hygiene tips, there's one natural tool that rarely gets mentioned: masturbation. After orgasm, your body releases a wave of calming chemicals: prolactin, serotonin, and oxytocin. These are the same hormones that promote relaxation, reduce anxiety, and make you feel drowsy. For many older men, especially those who live alone or feel tense at night, a private session before bed can be just what the body needs to settle down. I had a patient in his 70s who relied on sleep aids for years. But the side effects, grogginess, dry mouth, increased fall risk, were becoming a problem. After a few honest conversations, he tried something different. Just a quiet, mindful release a few nights a week. No pressure, no guilt. Within a month, he was falling asleep more naturally, and even reduced his medication with his primary doctor's supervision. You might not hear doctors talk about this often, but that doesn't mean it isn't valid. Sometimes the most natural solutions get overlooked because they're seen as awkward or off limits. But there's nothing shameful about doing what helps you sleep, feel calm, and wake up with a clearer head. Confidence doesn't disappear overnight, but for many older men, it fades quietly. Body changes, erectile unpredictability, lower libido, these things chip away at how you see yourself as a man. And when you don't feel confident in your body, it shows up everywhere: how you carry yourself, how you connect with others, how you relate to intimacy. Masturbation, when done gently and without shame, can actually rebuild that sense of confidence. It reminds you that your body still responds, that you still have control, that pleasure is still possible. You're not failing, you're adapting. And that shift in mindset can be powerful. One man in his mid-60s had gone through prostate surgery and told me he no longer felt like a real man. Erections were less reliable, and he avoided intimacy completely. With time, encouragement, and patience, he began to explore touch again, not chasing performance, but learning his body's new language. Over weeks, he noticed more sensation, more ease, more pride in what his body could still do. That pride spilled into other areas. He dressed better, walked taller, smiled more. Confidence isn't about being 25 again. It's about showing up for yourself at the age you are now, with honesty and care. When you touch your body with kindness, instead of criticism, you begin to shift the story. And that change is more powerful than any pill or cream. Many older men turn to pornography for stimulation, especially when physical intimacy isn't available. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, it's important to understand how regular porn use can affect the brain and body. Over time, especially past age 60, porn can be intensely stimulating, but it also sets a high bar for arousal. The colors, sounds, and quick changing scenes can condition your brain to expect intense excitement in order to get turned on. That might not be a problem at first, but with time, you may find it harder to respond to more natural or gentle forms of stimulation like touch, connection, or memory. One of my patients, age 69, shared that he used to rely on porn nightly. Over time, he noticed he needed longer videos or specific content and eventually struggled to get aroused without it. When he took a short break and focused on slower, real-life touch, sometimes just imagination or gentle massages, body gradually became more responsive. He told me he felt more connected to himself than he had in years. The goal isn't to shame or ban anything. It's to be aware. If porn is helping you feel relaxed and satisfied without stress, that's fine. But if you find it's the only thing that works, or you feel numb without it, it might be time to pull back and try reintroducing real, slower sensations. You're not broken if you've relied on porn, but you may find that your body responds differently and more naturally when you give it the space to relearn what it truly enjoys. The biggest mistake older men make when it comes to masturbation is trying to rush it. We live in a world that tells us faster is better, that climax is the goal, that pleasure should be quick and efficient. But your body at 65, 70, or 80 doesn't work the same way it did at 30, and that's not a flaw. It's a cue to slow down and tune in. As testosterone levels drop and circulation changes, it can take longer to get aroused, and erections may come and go during a session. That's completely normal. What matters more than speed or firmness is how connected you are to the experience. Slowing down allows you to actually feel more, not less. One patient in his early 70s told me he used to get frustrated that it took him so long to finish. I encouraged him to shift the goal entirely from orgasm to sensation. So instead of watching the clock or pressuring himself to perform, he treated the experience like a massage. He lit a candle, used warm lubricant, and focused on touch, how it felt, where his breath went, what parts of his body responded best. The result? Less stress, more pleasure, and a deeper sense of satisfaction, even on days when he didn't climax. This isn't about doing it right. It's about doing it in a way that supports your health, your comfort, and your peace of mind. Your body may need more time, but that extra time can actually give you more of what matters: connection, release, and a quiet sense of well-being. Dryness becomes more common as we age, not just for women, but for men too. Skin gets thinner, nerve endings become more sensitive, and friction that once felt fine can suddenly cause irritation or discomfort. That's why using a good lubricant isn't just a bonus, it's essential. Many older men try to masturbate the way they did in their youth, without any support. But the body changes. What used to feel good might now feel rough or even painful. When you introduce a gentle, skin-friendly lubricant, you reduce friction, protect delicate skin, and actually increase sensation. One man I saw in his mid-60s had quietly stopped touching himself for almost a year. He thought he was just too old, and that something was wrong. The truth? He was getting micro-tears in his skin from dry friction. I recommended a high-quality water-based lube, and just that small change made the entire experience enjoyable again. He came back a month later smiling, saying, "I thought I was broken. Turns out I was just dry." There's no shame in needing help. In fact, lubricant is one of the simplest, most effective ways to make self-pleasure feel better and safer. Choose something gentle, ideally unscented and free from harsh chemicals. Keep it nearby and treat it like part of your self-care kit, not an awkward secret. You deserve comfort. You deserve pleasure. And using a product that helps you feel more at ease is not a weakness. It's wisdom. One of the most freeing realizations for many older men is this: you're allowed to keep discovering what feels good. There's no expiration date on pleasure, no rule that says you can't try new things simply because you've passed a certain age. In fact, your body may respond better to touch and sensation now than it did when you were younger, because now you're listening with more patience, more curiosity, and less pressure. Curiosity doesn't mean doing anything wild or out of character. It means paying attention. Maybe you try different kinds of touch, lighter, slower, deeper. Maybe you explore new erogenous zones like the inner thighs, the perineum, or the nipples. Some older men are surprised to learn that areas they never paid attention to before suddenly bring a lot of pleasure. That's not odd. It's just how the nervous system shifts over time. One man, 75, who had been married most of his life, came in feeling embarrassed about losing sensation in his penis. He'd always focused on that one area, assuming it was the only place that mattered. I gently encouraged him to explore with a broader lens: shoulders, neck, stomach. A month later, he came back with a smile and said, "Turns out there's a whole lot more to enjoy than I ever realized." Aging doesn't mean you stop learning. It just means the learning changes shape. Give yourself permission to be curious again. Not for performance, not for anyone else, just for you. For some men, the hardest part about self-pleasure isn't physical, it's emotional. You might feel fine in your body, but there's a quiet voice in the back of your mind that still whispers, "You shouldn't be doing this." That voice might come from childhood messages, religious upbringing, or past relationships where this topic was shamed or ridiculed. Even if it's been decades since you first heard those messages, they can still stick. They create guilt where there should be comfort. They add fear where there should be peace. And over time, they can convince you that your needs are something to hide, suppress, or feel bad about. I've had men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s break down in tears in my office, not because of physical problems, but because they've never had permission to feel okay with this part of themselves. One man told me, "I've spent 50 years thinking I was doing something wrong every time I touched myself." That's not just sad, it's a kind of emotional wound. If any part of you feels conflicted, I want you to know, you are not alone. You are not bad. You are not sinful. You are a human being with a body that still seeks comfort, connection, and release. Giving yourself that gift doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. Don't let go of the old stories if they no longer serve. You don't need permission to be kind to yourself. And you don't have to feel guilty for responding to your own needs with patience and care. It's incredibly common for erections to become less predictable with age. You might notice they take longer to show up, disappear midway, or aren't as firm as you remember. This can feel frustrating, even alarming, but it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. What's often missing from the conversation is that arousal doesn't have to revolve around the erection. You can still experience deep pleasure, orgasm, and connection, even if your erection is softer, brief, or absent. It's about adapting rather than fighting against change. One man, 67, told me he felt like a failure because he couldn't maintain a strong erection every time. We talked about broadening his idea of success, not measuring it by rigidity, but by how much pleasure and presence he felt. Over time, as the pressure lifted, his erections actually improved. And more importantly, his anxiety vanished. The penis is not a machine. It's a part of your body that's deeply tied to blood flow, hormones, nerves, and emotions. Some days it will respond quickly. Other days, not as much. That's okay. You can still enjoy the sensations, the buildup, the release, even if the erection isn't what it used to be. Let your body do what it can without pressure. You're not trying to win a race or prove anything. You're just staying connected to yourself with kindness and curiosity. For many older men, masturbation has always been a private matter, something never discussed, not even with a doctor or partner. But holding everything inside can leave you feeling isolated or ashamed, especially if you're dealing with changes or concerns. Opening up, even just a little, can make a huge difference in how you feel about yourself. You don't have to share everything, but talking to a trusted doctor, therapist, or even a close friend about what's happening with your body can help you feel less alone. It can also give you access to useful suggestions or reassurance that what you're experiencing is completely normal. I remember a man in his early 70s who sat quietly in my office for several visits, only ever asking about blood pressure or sleep. One day, after months of building trust, he said, "Doc, is it normal that I still touch myself?" He looked ashamed, as if expecting judgment. I told him yes, completely normal, completely healthy. The relief in his face was immediate. From that moment, he walked taller. He smiled more. If you have a partner, it might even help to gently bring it up in conversation. You might find they're also dealing with their own changes or fears, and your honesty creates a bridge, not a barrier. I've seen relationships deepen because one person had the courage to say, "This is what I need. This is how I care for myself." You're never too old to talk about what matters, and your needs are just as valid today as they were decades ago. Letting someone in just a little can ease the weight you've been quietly carrying. Masturbation, for older men, isn't about chasing youth. It's about honoring the body you have today. It's about staying in touch literally and emotionally with your own comfort, health, and sense of self. You're not wrong for still having desire. You're not weak for needing connection. And you're definitely not alone in any of this. If you've ever felt ashamed, discouraged, or just unsure of what's normal at your age, I hope this conversation brought you some peace. You deserve to feel safe in your body. You deserve pleasure without apology. Whether you've already found a rhythm or you're just beginning to explore again, know this: you're allowed. You're welcome. And you are not broken. Let me ask you to take a small step. If you've already applied or plan to apply what we talked about today, type 1 in the comments. If you haven't yet and you're still thinking it over, type 0. I'll be reading and responding to each one of your comments personally. If this video helped you, please like it, subscribe, and consider sharing it with someone who might need it. Our bodies may age, but our need for connection doesn't go away. I'm glad you're here. Keep taking care of yourself with kindness, with patience, and with the quiet knowing that you still matter.